Hello and welcome. My name is Mark Rotherham, UK National Sales Manager for NEC. Within this webinar, we'll be looking at the MyCalls Manager, which is available on the SV9100 and the SL2100. Before we get into having a look at a live demonstration, I just want to take the opportunity to give you a little bit of an insight to what the MyCalls Manager can do for your business. MyCalls Manager is a piece of software that allows you to measure, monitor, and manage your business in real time. What I mean by that, if you had 50 abandoned calls that are happening, what use is that information in 24 hours time? Possibly none. Those could have been lost customers, lost sales, and lost opportunities. But with MyCalls Manager, it's real-time information, so you're able to investigate the reasons why those calls are being abandoned. There are various licenses that are available within the MyCalls Manager, and let's say the managing director wants to see everything that's happening within the business. That's not a problem. We can provide you a MyCalls Manager license. There may be departmental supervisors and managers that just want to see information that is relevant to their responsibilities. Yet again, by having additional user licenses, we can provide those individuals the tools, the measurement mechanism in real time that allows them to manage their department effectively. We can provide you live status, whether that be from an extension perspective or calls in the queue, calls that have been abandoned, calls that are outgoing, very, very easily, and you'll see that within the live demonstration. Within the application, there are hundreds and hundreds of reports. Now, these reports can be scheduled to go to your inbox or to a printer at any given time. Some of those reports you can customize, so you can actually really drill down on the information that is really accurate and the information that you actually want to see. Because we have hundreds of reports, we don't want you scrolling through them all the time because that could be quite mundane exercise. So you're able to mark the reports as favorites and they appear in a favorites tab, allowing you to access those reports periodically throughout the day. Now, one of the unique selling points, in my opinion, regarding this software is what we call management by exception. We appreciate that nobody's got 8 hours a day or 12 hours a day to look at a piece of software waiting for something to go wrong. This software, we can actually put some rules and regulations within it that can generate alarms if those rules are broken. So let's say, for example, if you're not answering your calls within 10 seconds, we can generate an alarm, and it can be a pop-up, it can be an audible alarm, it can be an email that can be sent to one individual or everybody, and that individual or everybody can start to investigate why these events are happening. Okay, so management by exception is key. You may have a telesalesperson that should be making 10 calls an hour. They haven't done it. How they're going to perform for the remainder of the day? Well, with management by exception, if that person doesn't make those 10 calls, you're going to know about it within the hour. That supervisor, that individual could be spoken to and hopefully understand the reasons why those calls hadn't been made. Then hopefully throughout the rest of the 7 hours of the working day, they're hitting those 10 calls an hour. We're not answering the calls within a certain amount of time. Even if a handset is off hook and not making any internal calls or external calls, just wants a lazy afternoon, we can even, with management by exception, set up an alarm, and it can email you the individual's extension and how long they've been off hook. So management by exception is a fantastic feature. Of course, if we're collating all this information about callers, we have to be GDPR compliant, so we're able to delete customers' information as and when required within a few clicks. And if your calls have been recorded, yet again, it will delete the recording. MyCalls Manager is needed if you are considering the MyCalls Recorder, because you access the recording through the MyCalls Manager. So with that said, let's go and have a look at the MyCalls Manager. So here we are in the MyCalls manager. Now, please don't get overwhelmed with what's in front of you. As I mentioned before, we can make this as busy or as sparse as you want. This is just one template, and you can have multiple templates. So if I just give you an example, we can have templates. That could be something as simple as that, just seeing the activity of the extensions, whether on the phone or off the phone, and what duration, etc. If we just track down a little bit further, let's have a look at auto attendant tab. So yet again, probably the wrong title, but we can actually see calls that are in the queue for the main number in the auto attendant, and we'll be coming back to another template shortly. So you can have multiple templates. So the managing director may want to see everything that's happening within the business. So you can have everything on one template if you really wanted to and make it really busy, or you could break it down into multiple templates. Those templates can roll. So after 20 seconds, it can go on to the next template. And then after that, another 20 seconds, it goes on to another template, etc., etc. So that's how we can just flick between the other. So let me go back to the default template and explain some of these tiles that we see in front of us. And this is generally what customers want to see. But every customer is different, so you may want to see something else. You may want to drill down per department and per DDI. So in the top left hand corner, you can see that a bit of a bar chart is actually occurring, and you can see that some calls have come in, and we've had one call we answered at 5 o'clock this morning. Yes, I've been recording very early this morning, but you can actually see we had 8 abandoned calls as well, so on and so forth. So what as the day goes through, you may see an increase of abandoned calls maybe at lunchtime, where staff just go on lunch as and when they want, but the business is being affected because callers are coming in at the time, we're not answering them. The way to get around that, your telephone system has 8 levels of day and night service, and maybe you put in an afternoon service where not only the reception phone rings, but some other extensions ring, hopefully to avoid people putting the phone down and abandoning the call. You have a lot of flexibility within your telephone system. The software is enabling you to manage that more effectively. We've got calls that are coming into the queue. You can see here all trunks, okay, whether that be in the queue. So that's calls that are not being answered at that point. Incoming calls that have been answered on all trunks, outgoing, abandoned, and unreturned. So yeah, again, we can capsulate everything, but like I've mentioned before, if you have different DDIs for different departments, we can measure and monitor that in exactly the same way. In the bottom right hand screen there at the moment, you just see a little pop-up. That's one of the management by exceptions to say something is not quite right. We're not answering the calls within a certain amount of time. So yeah, again, I'll demonstrate to that in real time in another subject in the next 2 or 3 minutes or so. In the middle here, we can see when our lines are busy. Now, when do our customers tell us? When do you know, I should say, when all your lines are engaged? You probably don't, unless your customers are telling you. So this is a way you can actually measure and monitor that. And yet again, management by exception rule could say, well, I've got 10 lines, make me aware when 9 lines are busy. And if I'm consistently getting those emails or those pop-ups, I should be considering maybe increasing my lines in order that my customers are getting through without getting the engaged tone. And equally, you may have more lines than you actually need. So yeah, again, you could trim down and save you some money along the way. In the bottom left-hand side, this is our extension status, and you can view this in various ways, and I'll show you that shortly. In this view here, I can see things that are happening for the longest amount of time. So if I just get my mobile app open and go to my SD500, and I just go off hook like that. Okay, so I've not dialed a number or anything like that. You can see I've been off hook now because I want a lazy morning. That's 7 seconds. Now look at the bottom right hand side. That's a management by exception. So that is also going to send me an email. Okay, and I'll open up the email shortly in order for you to see that actual alarm that says this particular extension has been off hook for the longest amount of time. or because I want a quiet morning. Okay, so I'll put the phone down there. So there's the email, and while we're on that subject, we'll just open up our email, and you can see here, I'll just open it up for you, that our hook extension 562 was our hook greater than 7 seconds. So yeah, again, maybe I've just put the phone off hook because 1 o'clock afternoon. Yeah, those email alarms I can mention could be for you haven't made your 10 outbound calls within an hour. Supervisor can then go and investigate and understand why, and hopefully that individual knows that I'm being measured and monitored and consistently hits their 10 calls an hour. So with that said, that's management by exception, which the sales rep will be able to explain a little bit further for you if need be. So I'm going to bring a call in, and what's going to happen, you're going to see the call that's going to be in the queue, because again, we haven't answered it as yet. I'm just going to bring up a little application there at the bottom. Please ignore that, because I am going to answer some calls. But when a call comes in and we don't answer it, it's in the queue waiting to be answered. You can see that information there. And then I'm going to abandon the call. So you'll see the 16 increase to 17 and the unreturned call go to 6. So with that said, let me get my mobile and dial in, and I'll go off hook. Okay, and you can see there the call's in the queue, and I'm going to abandon the call now. Okay, so the call is not in the queue any longer. It's not ringing at a particular extension. The abandoned call has gone to 17, okay, and unreturned 7. So we've had 17 calls that have come into the business and we have not answered them. So that could be, our clients, it could be new sales opportunities, it could be whatever. But 17 times somebody's phoned in and we haven't answered it. But it's not as bad as it would seem, because the unreturned tile here says 7. So that will tell me that 10 of those 17 people have either been phoned back to apologize that we didn't answer the phone, or they've actually phoned in and we've answered the call. Okay, so there again, there's a good measurement, and I can email the numbers of these abandoned calls every 5-10 minutes if I wanted to a colleague for them to take action and phone them back. Okay, but this time I'm going to phone in and I'm going to answer the telephone. So you'll see some different activity along here. So yet again, if I phone in, go off hook. Okay, we see the call in the queue. It's ringing on extension 200. I'm going to answer the call. Okay, so I've answered it now. You can see that reception phone, extension 200, has answered the main DDI number, and it's Mark's mobile and has been talking there for 11, 12, 13 seconds, etc. Okay, so if another call was to come in and get answered, let's say by Jake, yeah, the call would come in underneath. So I'm able in this view to see who's been doing something for the longest amount of time. Now, if I quickly change this view, just to give you another idea, if I show you an overview, you'll see that, yes, I do get indication that some activity on the reception and Steve's phone, but I don't know what. I know that's on a green represents an incoming call, but if I open that, I'm starting to get that same information. But me, preferably, I want to see things that have been happening for the longest amount of time, whether that be a line or an extension. So viewing it as we are doing now really does benefit me. You can actually see there the call is on line 1. Okay, stick trunk run 1. So I'm going to put the phone down and keep your eye on the abandoned and the unreturned calls. So the call has been cleared, the telephone system, and again, we got a management by exception, but you would have noticed in the bottom right hand side that the unreturned calls is now 0. Okay, so yes, I've had 17 abandoned calls, but either the person that's phoned in has phoned in again and that time got answered, or we have actually proactively phoned those individuals back. Okay, so yeah, again, a very good overview of how you're dealing with those situations. You can see that the incoming call has actually increase because we answered the call in order for that to go to 0. And if I'm making any outgoing calls, yet again, we can break that down by DDIs as well as monitoring all trunks, as I've already mentioned. So how can I find out a little bit more information about these 17 calls? Well, there's a whole host of reports and they are up there and I'll show you shortly. But what we can do, we can get a lot of information from the actual tile itself. Let's just go to a group summary. Okay, so this is going to give us some valuable information. Okay, we mentioned about 17 calls. Well, obviously the 17 calls are not listed there, but you can see they are up here, and I'm going to touch on that shortly. But what I can gain from this is that we can see that we've had 5 calls that have come in and been abandoned between 0 and 5 seconds. Yeah, and the remainder has been between 6 and 30. Okay, now it may well be you don't want to report on abandoned calls between 0 and 5 seconds. Well, that's fine. We can just change the parameters. But if you want to monitor everything like we do, yet again, you've got that information. So you may be thinking, well, what can I try and do to try and create these people to be a little bit more patient? Yet again, the telephone system itself can have what we call in-queue messaging. So it could say, hi, thanks for calling NEC. Your call is important. Please hold. Your call be dealt with as soon as possible. That may stop the people putting the phone down. Yeah. If you don't answer it in 20, 30 seconds, then I'm sure they're going to put the phone down. But introducing in-queue messaging, which is part of the telephone system, providing you've got a voicemail element, you can achieve that as well. So that gives me an idea of what I can actually do to prevent more calls being abandoned. Getting onto the 17 calls, I can just click on that. It just acts like a hyperlink, and it'll get hyperlink even, and it'll go off and get those 17 calls. So you can see the time, the date, the call type. In this instance, it's abandoned. The telephone number, and yet again, it's come up with Mark's mobile because I'm in the database of the MyCalls manager and the telephone system, the telephone number. But probably more importantly, you can actually see here the ring time. So I put the phone down within 6 seconds, 3 seconds, 23 seconds, 25. So, you know, in some occasions I have been quite patient. So that's a fantastic way of trying to understand what's actually happening. And yet again, you didn't have to go off to the huge reports. You can just click within the tile and get that information. The same information can be gained on the incoming call. So let's get the call detail of these calls. There's 3 calls. Incoming, Mark's mobile again, the number, and the duration of the incoming call. Okay. So going back onto reports, okay, all the reports are here, and I'm not going to talk intensively about them. I just want to demonstrate to you how many there are, because there are hundreds of them, and you can break them down to folders, individual folders, etc., so on and so forth. Now you'll notice that some of the reports have stars next to them. So we've actually class these as our favorites, because you may be getting a report first thing tomorrow morning, but maybe throughout the working day you want to periodically go and have a look of, you know, how things are actually happening. You may have been in a meeting and you want to see how your team's been performing. So instead of going through this list intensively or waiting for the following day for your report to appear in your inbox or to the printer, you can just come to the favorites tab. Okay, and all your favorites are listed there. Okay, so yet again, all calls today, it will go off and get me that information relatively easy and quickly. Okay, so how easy is that? So as I mentioned, we can see extension status. So when a call came in, if I just keep it ringing this time, you'll see the call is now in the queue and it's ringing the receptionist. What's going to happen? Okay, see all the ringing extensions now? We know that all those extensions ringing. We had an in-queue message. Yeah. Okay, and I could potentially, if I just abandon the call, what's going to happen? You guessed it, abandon rate 18, unreturned 1. Okay, so that gives you real-time information. Some of you may want to consider having auto attendant. And yet again, measuring monitor activity in auto attendant is extremely important as well. Why shouldn't you see how many calls are coming into what your callers are pressing and what their activity is? So if I phone in again on the auto attendant, this is monitoring our sales team. And I'm just looking for the number. Here we go. And I'm going to go hands-free again so you can hear it ringing.
Thank you for calling NEC. Press 1 for sales, 2 for service.
I'm going to press 1 for sales, and I'm going to be a new customer.
Thank you. You're through to the NEC sales team. Press 1 if you're a new customer.
Yeah. So you can see the calls in the queue. You know it's Mark's mobile. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to abandon the call. So what's going to happen? You guessed it. We've had 3 abandoned calls. Yeah, that was 2 previously. And there's the unreturned. So the same type of measurement and mechanism that we had on the original template for the incoming call, we can replicate for auto attendants. So to summarize, we have multiple templates. You can have additional user licenses to provide supervisors or departmental managers the ability to manage their responsibilities. You may want this information on a screen for a department or throughout the business. So yet again, you can hopefully your team, your employees can actually, make sure the service level is what it should be. You've got management by exception, so hopefully if it's all set up and you've got some rules in there, if those rules are broken, you are going to get those email alarms to allow you to investigate what type of alarm it is, whether it's an off-hook alarm or you're not answering your phone over a certain amount of seconds, or a telesales person has not made their 10 calls when they should have. Management by exception is a fantastic element to the MyCalls manager. And last but not least, if I just want to see all the calls that have come in, I can go to a tab here and you can see all the calls, and I can filter by today, yesterday, or even a given date. And I can see a little bit more detail, the duration of the call, etc. And if the calls are recorded, yet again, you need the MyCalls manager for accessing those recordings, and you can see if you've got little icons here that would tell me that the calls are being recorded, which is another video that you can actually watch. So I do hope that explains what MyCalls manager is and how it could actually benefit your business. And let's get back and have a review and a summary. So there we go. How easy was that? And hopefully you've seen the benefit of the MyCalls manager. So just to summarize, real-time information. You can have multiple templates that show you every department or everything on one screen, depending on what you want to do. And don't forget, those templates can roll. Some of the templates you may want to have some flashing tiles like calls in a queue that have been waiting for more than 10 seconds. And if you've got that information, by having an additional user license, maybe on a screen on the sales floor or the technical support, that tile can flash and hopefully somebody can start taking some action. Visibility of extensions and lines, who's doing what and how long for, and how many lines are busy at any one time. Scheduling reports, you don't have to go off and find them. Yes, we spoke about the favorites tab because periodically throughout the day you want to have a look at certain things, but scheduling reports to an email or to a printer will take out all the headache for you. Of course, if you've got MyCalls Recorder and we're recording all the calls, you do need to have MyCalls Manager. And by far, in my opinion, management by exception is the biggest unique selling point. Having the alarms generated to my email, allowing me to get on with other things and only be concerned as and when I get these emails that we're not answering the phones in time, we've got too many abandoned calls, or somebody's taking their phone off hook, or whatever it may well be, it gets emailed to me, so I am really managing my team more effectively. So that concludes the MyCalls Manager